Hi! So about a week ago, when I was making the previous video on this channel, I noticed that it was the 250th video that I published on the Lanewood Studios YouTube channel. And that's not even counting the shorts and the live streams that I've done on this channel. So I figured it was about time that I did a proper studio tour of this place over here. You know, Lanewood Studios, what is it all about? What kind of work am I doing over here? What am I working with? And all that kind of good stuff. Now, I have done a studio tour on this channel before, but that's many years ago and things have changed, of course. So yeah, I thought it was about time again. Now, at the same time, I also want to invite you guys to share what kind of home studio you're working with, what kind of work are you doing in there, what kind of gear do you have in there, maybe a nice picture of your place. So please comment on the Facebook and Instagram posts that I always do when I release another video, so that I also get to know a bit about your place. So let's share and let's go. Now, first off, this studio is literally a room in my home. So yeah, I guess that's what home studio means. Now, this is also a home studio in the sense that this is not my job that pays the mortgage and the food on the table, because that really would not be too much food in that case. I work a regular, almost full-time day job in an entirely different line of work. The only thing is that my day job is actually also quite technical, so that's where the home studio stuff and the work kind of intersect. Now, even though this is not my full-time job, making music and producing music has been my passion for over 30 years now. And I've picked up a lot of useful stuff along the way, and I'm still learning every day. And that's kind of what I try to share on this YouTube channel. Now, that said, due to the full-time job, the amount of time that I can actually spend in here is limited. I basically have the evening hours only. I'm working during the day and the weekend is mostly for family stuff. So in this home studio, I'm really only doing two things, which is producing music for my band The Wash and using it for this YouTube channel. So I don't actually have other clients that I'm doing mixes or audio work for at the moment. I do regularly get requests from you guys via Instagram or Facebook Messenger or something like that for all kinds of stuff, really helping you with your music, mixes, audio equipment or your audio software, but I simply don't have the time. Now, with all of that out of the way and you know what kind of work actually happens in here, let's have a look at the gear. Because really, let's be honest, that's really what these studio tours are all about, right? So let's start with a nice mic collection that I've built up over the years. Now, looking at the mic collection that I have in front of me over here and in the vocal booth, which I'll show you a bit later, it's not really that big. I have a few choice pieces that I use a lot and some which have gone a bit by the wayside. Now, the first one, of course, is the SM7B that I've been using on every YouTube video since I got it. I really like this microphone on my voice, and it's also great on my Taylor acoustic guitar because that's kind of bright, and the kind of darker sounding SM7B really nicely counteracts that brightness. Apparently, it's also great on vocals, but I have not used it for that yet. Now, another pride and joy microphone is this Neumann KM84, which I bought off of the Dutch version of eBay years ago already. And I really like this microphone on slightly darker acoustic guitars. For example, a singer of our band has a nice Martin acoustic guitar, which is definitely slightly darker than my Taylor, and I always record it with this microphone and it sounds great. Now, another microphone that I've used to record acoustic guitar before is this Audio-Technica AT4040. I've also used it for vocals, by the way, but since I've had that KM84 and my vocal mic, which I'm going to show you in a minute, this is really only the backup mic and I don't really use it a lot anymore. Another nice microphone is this Royer R101. Which is a ribbon mic which I used to use for recording guitar cabinets when I was experimenting with that at home. And that's kind of tough because you can't really turn up the volume too much at home, right? But then I used this one as one of the microphones on the guitar cabinet. I have to say though that I've been using the Kemper for many years now already, which is back there. And that has really replaced my need to mic any guitar cabinets over here. So again, it's a nice microphone. Although I've also used it to record some percussion, like shakers and such, because it really makes them a little bit darker and less harsh, for example. But apart from that, I'm not really using this microphone a lot anymore. Now, another staple is of course the SM57 by Shure. I'm sure all of you have heard about this microphone, and this is the one I used to use in tandem with the Royer to mic a guitar cabinet. Gave quite a nice sound, but again, my needs have been replaced by the Kemper back there. So even this SM57, I'm not using it a lot anymore. In the beginning of the YouTube channel, I also use it on my voice, but that has been replaced by this SM7B now. Now, another small microphone which you may have noticed is this one on my shirt here, which is the DJI lavalier mic. And that's actually going to be the microphone that you're going to hear in this video when I'm walking around and showing you the studio a bit more, because I can connect it to this DJI mic remote transmitter and recorder actually. It also records audio on this one. I've also tried the microphone on this thing. I also tried a Shure lav mic, but I really like this one the best. So let's have a listen to that when I'm showing you my main vocal mic. Yeah, so this is my vocal booth just next to the mix position. And this is the main vocal mic that I always use. This is a Peluso 2247 limited edition. So it's a U47 clone and I really like it on the vocals of our singer of my band. And we've basically used it on all of the vocal productions for a band that were recorded and mixed over here in Lanewood Studios. Now maybe a quick look around in the vocal booth over here. As you can see, there is some dampening on the walls. Old Marshall amp there. Doubles as a bit of a storage for guitar cases. And there is some dampening on the back walls as well. Basically some standing gobos from GIK Acoustics. Yeah, and some dampening behind the mic as well. Now moving on from the recording booth, I have a little cupboard next to it with on top boxes of audio gear, of course. A lot of the audio books and music related books that I've been using for many years now. Some of the wash CDs which were partly recorded and produced in this studio over here. My camera equipment down there, it's a bit of a mess. And this is the shelf which holds most of the microphones that I already showed you. And some assorted junk at the bottom. Now moving on from the cupboard, the door of my home studio with a nice poster of my band. Some coat hangers that I use to hang patch cables. Along with a white card for video production. And this is the back wall over here, on which I have two monster traps by GIK Acoustics. And down here is where my guitar collection starts, which we'll have a better look at now. Okay, as for the guitar collection here in my home studio, I've set them all up for you, which I normally don't do. And be honest, it's not really even that many guitars for a guitar player, right? First of all, my main guitar, my Tom Anderson guitar that I bought when I studied at Musicians Institute in California many years ago. But it's still going strong. And it's still one of the best guitars that I ever played, so I keep playing it. Next up, my indulgement from a few years ago. This is a Suhr guitar, a Scott Henderson model, which is really one of my favorite guitar players. So I kind of treated myself to a used Suhr Scott Henderson a few years ago. I occasionally use it on stage, but not really a lot. But I do use it for recording because it has a bit of a different sound from the Tom Anderson guitar. Now this is a guitar that I had when I went to the States to study at Musicians Institute. It has the grip, so it's a Steve Vai Jam 777 model. I played heavier music at the time. At the moment I'm not really using it anymore, except when I need that really saturated humbucker sound from a guitar like this. For example, for some rakes or really some heavy chords. I also have a bass in the studio, which is a Mexican P-bass by Fender. It feels and plays quite heavy, but the sound is worth it. So yeah, when I want to record a bass sound, I typically use this guitar. Now this one is a very cheap Fender acoustic, which I strung with Nashville tuning strings to get that really wide acoustic strumming sound if I need it. And it really works, even though this is a very crappy and cheap guitar. Now behind me over here I have my main acoustic. This is a Taylor 414 CE, which I've been using for all my Awash acoustic gigs. We do many acoustic gigs with the band. I've also used it for some recordings. We have recorded some acoustic songs and I even did a live stream about the mixes of one of those acoustic songs, which has this guitar on it. Now behind me over on this side is my very first serious guitar, which is my Fender Strat, which I bought in probably 1983 or something. It's an E-Lite version, which was very special at the time. You can basically enable and disable these pickups with these buttons over here. It's also active and at the moment it even has this guitar synth pickup on it. But I actually don't really use this guitar anymore. But maybe I should for recordings because it really has that Fender sound, of course. And that's it for guitars in Lanewood Studios. Now moving on from the guitars and another cupboard full of junk and boxes on top, of course. We're getting to something that I really wanted to show, which is my old Tascam Porta Studio 246. This is really my first try at serious recording. It's a 4-track cassette recorder and the cassette runs at 2 times the normal speed. And this is what I used for many years, still living at my parents at the time actually, in my first real home studio, to record myself. I even recorded the audition tape for Musicians Institute on this device and I got in. Now moving over to the right over here, we get to the gear. which is a really interesting part, of course. So let's have a better look at that. Now it starts with my Camper over here, which is a guitar, amplifier and cabinet emulation. And I use this both on stage and in the studio. It really works very well. And it's just so handy on stage to not have to lug around heavy cabinets or amplifiers, and sounds great. Now below that you see a complete control keyboard by Native Instruments. It's a Mark II version, by the way, not the latest Mark III, but it works great for me. I don't really play keyboards, but whenever I need to have a synth sound or something, I can find my way around on this thing. Then under that in the rack you can see a Lexicon MPX 500. I don't really use this in my mixes or anything, but I have it set on a plate algorithm over here, and I just use it for comfort reverb when somebody is here to record a vocal part. Then I can get some reverb without any latency, because I'm not generating it in the DAW. That's also why I have this mixer down here still, which is an old Mackie 1402 VLZ Pro mixer. Again, I don't really record through this, but it's used purely for monitoring and for easy being able to change volumes on the monitored signals, etc. Been using that for a long time, so I'm used to it in my workflow and it works great. Now below the MPX 500 I have the Heritage Audio HA73 EQ, which is a recording channel with a 1073 style equalizer. Again, very nice for recording acoustic guitar, for example. Below the mixer I have my patch bay. Well, I actually have two patch bays. The old one is at the bottom and the new one is on top. I still needed the old one because my devices just didn't fit on the new one. And at the bottom is my AD and DA converter by RME. It's an ADI 8DS Mark III. 8 channels in, 8 channels out, and that's enough for me. But I recently bought another DA converter, a really high quality one, but more about that in a minute. Because if we zoom back on top over here, you can see that, well, over here there's a little passive attenuator for the output of my other preamp, which we'll get to in a minute. There's my monitor controller, the Heritage Audio RAM System 2000. I did a separate video about that. And then on this side you can see my most recent purchase in the studio, which is the other AD-DA converter I was talking about, the RME ADI2 Pro FSR, the Black Edition. This is really a top quality DAC and AD converter, which I basically got when I got more into listening via headphones, because you can actually store EQ profiles for headphone correction in there. And yeah, it sounds great. If I need more outputs for headphones, I have a very old Samsung CQ8 over here, which connects 4 headphones, and you can individually set the volume on those headphones. Below that is my red DI, well, it's a DI box, which I always use when I'm recording bass. Great sound. Tube DI, by the way. And under that is my main mic preamp, which I use. It's a stereo version. It's the Pacifica from A Designs. Very simple, but I've been using it for many years, and well, it just sounds great. Below that is my Neve Portico 5043 compressor by Rupert Neve Designs. I used to use this as my bus compressor, but it has been replaced by another device, which we'll get to in a minute. And now I'm still using it for tracking. Very silky and smooth sound with a lot of vintage vibe if you use it in the feedback mode. Below that is my Hammer EQ, also by A Designs. Absolutely great equalizer. Also a tube device. This was my mix bus equalizer actually. But at the moment I'm just using it for tracking, which it is also great for, by the way. Because my mix bus processing has been replaced by the devices which you see under the Hammer, which is on the one hand the Magnetismus 2 from Taylor Audio, which is sort of a mild distortion tape simulation unit, which I use on the mix bus. I have not made a video about this yet. And below that is my Taylor Audio Cream, which is both a compressor and an equalizer that I now use on the mix bus. Both sound great. The Magnetismus I only switch on for certain songs. I just flip the switch and check whether it sounds better or not, or otherwise I bypass it. But the Cream is always on the mix bus really, and always on the same settings as well, by the way. So I don't really have any problems when I need to redo an old mix, because the settings just stay the same all the time. And these devices are also on the mix bus right from the beginning. Now over here, behind the red DI, a lot of cable junk, but also the 2 headphones that I use the most. One is a Hi-Fi Man Nano, which I've made a separate video about. And over here, the headphone for the Slate VSX system, which I also use to reference my mixes on headphones. And this one even simulates a real studio environment. Now if we move from the headphones to my desk here, you can see that I have my audio PC under the desk here, again with some cable mess. This is still the door that I built in 2021. It's an Intel 10th generation i9 10900K. Still working very well actually. Even on my heaviest mixes I only use half of the processing power that it has. Now on my desk I have the SSL UF1 controller, which I made several videos about. A little remote control for my LED strips. The DaVinci Resolve speed editor for when I edit my videos. A Stream Deck, which again I use for video recording and when I do a live stream, for example. The controller unit of a TC Electronic DVR 250 reverb plugin. 2 different Logitech mouses. And my Logitech keyboard over here. The screen is just a widescreen by LG. Sorry about the glare of the video light in there. And for monitoring I'm using the Adam Audio A8H, which are relatively new and which I also recently made a video about. And as a second sort of reference I also use the Avantone Mix Cubes, which is the active version over here. And on the other side, very much the same of course, along with the video light that always lights my face when I'm sitting at my desk. And oh yeah, of course, again, the SM7B, which is now extended a bit, but I can just pull it in when I need to record a video. Yeah, so that basically concludes the studio tour of my home studio. I hope you liked it, to have a look at the full studio instead of just this angle of the studio, which you normally see in my videos. And that you also kind of know what kind of work I do over here and what are the equipment and instruments that I use for that. Now I'm also very interested to know what your home or professional studio looks like, so that I also get a bit of an impression of what you guys or ladies are doing. Unfortunately, you cannot post pictures in comments on YouTube. So instead you can post a picture of your studio in response to, for example, the Facebook post that I will do on my Facebook Lanewood Studios page to promote this video. And of course, if you've seen anything in this video and you wonder like how I use it, maybe you want to see a video on it, let me know and I'll either tell you that I already made a video about it or I'll put it on the planning for this year. Now, one of the biggest improvements that I did in this home studio in the last couple of months was upgrade my studio monitors. And there's really a lot to it to get all of that set up. So if you haven't seen that video yet, I'll post it over here. Check it out, enjoy, and see you soon.